Hi, this is Patrick Henry, CEO of Quest Fusion with The Real Deal, What Matters. I'm here today with Andy Voggenthaler. Andy is the CEO of Race Guards, which we're going to talk a lot about that today. But Andy brings experience and expertise in brand development and strategic partnerships, having developed long-term licensing and business ventures for many companies, including General Motors, Nabisco, Hanten, DuPont, Teflon, Pebble Beach, and AIG American General. As the key business development executive at Matrix Direct, Andy was responsible for developing a complex yet extremely successful joint venture with AIG American General, which ultimately led to AIG acquiring Matrix in 2007. Today, Matrix is the leading direct marketer in terms of life insurance in the country. So, welcome, Andy.
Hey, thank you.
But fill in the gaps. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and I guess you're a local San Diegan. But where did you come from?
Sure.
Tell me a little more about yourself.
So, I grew up in the Bay Area. Sunnyvale is where I grew up. Great place to grow up as a kid. Always passion for sports. Was into water polo and into running and triathlon and all that stuff.
Sure.
As a young kid. I had these visions of going to Stanford. That was my thing that I wanted to do, and unfortunately, like a lot of kids, I didn't get in.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have plan B. It was kind of crazy. And so my whole bunch of buddies were, going to go down to San Diego, and I was really into water skiing and all that stuff. And so I decided, okay, I'll come to San Diego, and maybe I'll transfer or do whatever. But as soon as I came to San Diego and was here for the first semester teaching water skiing, doing all sorts of fun things, then
so like San Diego State or
San Diego State, which
is
a big journey from Stanford to San Diego State.
Although
they were, it was a great thing, and honestly, things work out for a reason. And I couldn't be more happy about my.
So you've been in San Diego ever since.
Ever since.
So always in California and San Diego for a number of years now.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So let me talk a little bit about Race Guards. So. As I understand it, Race Guards has a corporate side, an LLC side, as well as a foundation, a charitable foundation. And what you guys do is, during races, whether it's triathlons or foot races or whatever, if somebody has a problem and needs medical attention or medical prevention or something, you guys get involved with that. I guess from your website, it says you're focused on athletes who have a desire to provide supporting, or you're the athletes that have a desire to provide support at running, cycling, triathlon, and endurance events of any size and any distance. Our incredible team of CPR certified first responder volunteers ensure that participants have a safe and rewarding experience from start to finish. Race for good, come join our team. So, and then you have sponsors as well, but it's interesting. My wife Amanda just finished her first half marathon, and I said, "You want?" She said, "Should I have a race goal?" I'm like, the race goal in your first half marathon is to finish and not need medical attention at the end of the event. So she accomplished both those things, and she actually had her secret goal of having a certain time.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about that. How did Race Guards start?
Yeah.
And how'd you get involved?
Sure, happy to say that. Basically, it's funny because as I mentioned early on that, I've been a long time endurance athlete. Just love getting out there, go out hard and hang on was always kind of my mantra, and that rarely works out to your benefit. So I, over the course, even when I was in high school, I could see people out on the course, having issues.
Yeah.
Myself included, just putting it out there. And over the years of running marathons and doing triathlons and doing all sorts of stuff, I would see people having issues out on the course. And I'm going, gosh, there's a medical tent over there, there's a medical tent over there, but nobody wants to stop at a medical tent.
Right.
So, I was like going, gosh, there's got to be a better way for like little stuff, people cramping, chafing, and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, gosh, it's always in the back of my mind, really, about how, is there a better way to do this?
Sure.
And it was really, I was I was training for Ironman Hawaii back in 2004 at just a training race in the desert, and a small race, a triathlon. And I get out of the water, run to my bike, start to put all my gear on, And you're kind of focused on your own thing, but
Sure.
I could tell there was something going on next to me. Like the guy was like all over the place. I'm thinking, well, maybe he's a rookie, maybe whatever. Paying attention to what I was doing, trying to get out on the bike.
Right.
Well, he collapses back into my hands. Right?
Oh, wow.
And so I grab him and I look down. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And his eyes were like saucers, right? They're just looking at me, and I'm like, and I yell. I look over and just yelled for help essentially at that moment in time. And there was a paramedic, and he fortunately was there, at that moment anyway. And he jumped over the bike transition area, came running over. I looked back down at the guy, and I said to him, I said, hey, you're in good hands now. And he was there, and his buddy, his other EMT guy, kind of came over.
Yeah.
He looked at me. His eyes never blinked. He nodded. At least I think he nodded. And they were on him. And I taking a step back, and I'm like going, dang, everything kind of just slowed down. Within a few seconds, they were doing CPR on him. Yeah. Well, the unfortunate news is that he died.
Oh, wow.
He was 37 years old, same age I was at the time.
It's crazy.
And so I was really thinking about, what? It's that defining moment where things, even though if we had race guards or not out there, we could have saved this guy or not. Yeah. There was that moment that just said, gosh, there's this opportunity. And so through my work with AIG, as you mentioned early on, I had won a community service award for these guys, and I presented the idea of race guards.
Okay.
Race guards is simply bringing teams of endurance athletes and medical professionals together, running in pairs, fast, medium, slow pace, across the course with medical packs and tied into the medical director. Okay. So if there's an issue that goes on TEMTs and all that stuff, if there's something bad that happens out there, and off you go, those kind of things. So so they, I talked to AIG, and they said, you know what? And at that point in AIG's in world, they had just collapsed essentially. We sold our company, right, and then a year later they collapsed essentially. So we were they thought it was a great idea, and they said, hey, well, we'd like to sponsor it, but it was under the Sun America brand name, believe it or not, under AIG. And they said, hey, give it a go, see what happens. And so we had finished Chelsea's run 5.5 years ago. We decided to try this idea. Getting people certified CPR, first aid, AED operation. And
so you actually take people through that process as well. So when you volunteer for race guards, you don't necessarily have to have already done those things. If you don't have those things, you guys facilitate that.
We will. Everybody, regardless of your background, you're going to have training through race guards on how to do it. But I mean, if you're a doctor, endurance athlete that's a medical professional of some sort. Today, our teams are over 75% that have medical backgrounds, like doctors, EMTs, whatever, firefighters, whatever. Right. But we will train all of them on how we do it out on the course. And their only gear is, they're not there to, they're there for first aid. They're there for, if somebody has a heart attack, some of us have AEDs, we do that, CPR obviously, call in help and do all that kind of stuff. Right. So that's kind of our deal. And the funny thing about it, Patrick, is that the first time we did this race, we had our buddies, everybody's certified, and we're like, hey, this could be, I don't know if it's going to be a good idea or a bad idea. Yeah. Right? So we had, people, again, fast, medium, slow pace out there with our race guard gear. we have an app.
When was this?
This is 6 years. It'll be 6 years in March, right? Okay.
So we didn't know it was going to be a good idea or not. We didn't have today we have an app which is amazing. Our technology is super cool, and how we keep track of everything, and the race director gets real-time reporting and all that stuff. It's really cool. But back then, right? So we finished Chelsea's Run, which is a 5K, and we decided to go. We had about 30 race guards, our gear from AIG, we're looking sharp, all that stuff out there, and so we did it. Just it's very similar to how we do it today. Again, fast, medium, slow pace, right. And we're at a 5K. Keep in mind, right? Yeah. So we're like, So I decided to hang out in the back with my friend Brad, who's a race car, a college buddy of mine. Yeah. And he's a race certified as well, and everything kind of progresses. I don't know if there's anything going on in front of us or not. I don't know if we're helping anybody. I don't know if we're doing any good. I don't know if this is a great idea. So I look over to my buddy Brad, and I said, Brad, hey, I don't know if this is if we're going to see anybody or if this is a good idea. And he's like, no, dude, this is awesome, man. Keep going. This is great. 20 seconds later, and honest to God, we were in Balboa Park, a guy probably in his 60s, he wanted to look over the bridge to see the race coming around, I guess. He tripped on a curb, falls on the thing. I mean, in front of us, right?
Oh, wow.
Bleeding out of everything. I really thin skin.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like, wow, so we were on it, like, we bandaged him up, and that kind of took him some time to, to get him going, but he wanted to finish, right? So meanwhile, the race is progressing.
Oh, wow.
And so it goes, and so I get back to our tent at the finish line, and the one thing that just, it was that moment, right? I get back to the tent, all the race guards are back,
right?
And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that was crazy. This guy falls down and whatever.
Right.
Meanwhile, there were some other issues. We had like 10 or 12 or whatever people that needed some stuff. One little ambulance ride, which wasn't critical, but it needed help to get them somewhere, and we had to help.
Yeah.
And so I get back to the tent, and the coolest moment was, here are all these friends of mine that have been killing it like I have over the years in endurance sport.
Right.
They've been killing it. We are racing against each other. We were racing against the time.
Yeah.
And here's the moment in time. You get goosebumps right now talking about it, because look around and everybody had these huge smiles, right? And they're like, that was so cool, because they're doing something that's totally different than what you're used to,
completely different,
right?
Yeah.
So they're just so they're just like, that was the coolest experience. And other race directors were there, and they're like, hey, Andy, can you come to our race, rock and roll? And those guys, so the next thing you know, we're off and running. And I ultimately end up leaving, a nice job at, AIG.
Okay, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I looked a little bit at the website. So you basically have volunteers, which we've talked about. You have sponsors, so talk to me a little bit about sponsors, and who are some of the big ones, and how do you attract them, and what's their motivation for getting involved with you guys?
Well, it's always a game, and it's a process, as far as tracking down good sponsors and tracking down people that really align your interests, that are doing that. So, and we also knew that we were going to have to have. We're going to have to, God, what is that? Is that my phone or your phone?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry about that. We were going to have to show our services to people, for free, essentially. Because old school race directors, you're not going to go, race guards, who are you? What are you doing? What do we need? So we built our whole model is basically get sponsors kind of going with you.
Right.
And so we can be at races in markets where our sponsors would like us to be.
Sure.
And do the service, help the race director, and then ultimately, with good results, we turn that model to a pay for service kind of a deal. So sponsors would always be great, but paying for service ultimately is where we need to go.
So the race organizers, the race directors, compensate race guards in addition to the sponsorship dollars.
Well, they do now, and now that we're into it 5 years. But initially, our whole model was, hey, we'll come, we'll do it, we'll do everything for free. Essentially, they might give us expo space and to for our sponsors and all of that, for free as a kind of a trade and that kind of stuff. And that here in San Diego, there's so many races and there's so many good race directors around that, and they love race guards, right? So it's super cool.
Awesome.
So now we're kind of flipping the model from sponsorship, primarily having sponsors fund our business, to really as more of a pay for service kind of model.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain to me kind of corporate structure wise, you have the LLC, you have the foundation. How does that work, and how do they work kind of complementary together?
Right. Yeah, well, the foundation kind of came to us in kind of a I won't bore you with the details of how it kind of came to us, but it was an interesting opportunity for us. We were always an LLC from the very beginning, and then the foundation was something that we were able to do. And the idea of the foundation is really if people wanted to donate through the foundation, the whole idea is to help grow the race guard program, whether it's a new market or fund a new technology or help do things like that. That's really why the foundation is there, and a vehicle for people to do that. Surprisingly, through our corporate partners, most corporate partners they just come through just Race Guards LLC, and they just do it that way for whatever reason.
Okay, so you can get involved either way.
Either way, people can donate it if they'd like to, and through the foundation if they want to, and whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So how big is the organization now, and what percentage of volunteers?
Yeah. Well, so we did over 50 races last year, 50.
Okay.
And it's such a tip of the iceberg. That's the thing that's just so crazy about it. When you think about running races, just running.
Yeah.
Just
30,000 races a year.
Wow, just in the U.S.?
Yeah, in the U.S.
Just in the U.S., wow.
And that's not taking into account, triathlons and the adventure races, and the Spartan races, all that stuff.
Right.
Cycling, whatever.
Yeah.
So we're like so tiny, and that's the opportunity, right?
Okay.
Because there's really no standard of care today. Anybody could just say, hey, I'm going to go do a race and, get a permit for Balboa Park, which there's probably too many races in Balboa Park. But as an example, I could just say, oh, I'm going to go do a race. Well, there's really it's not like if you're going to do a swim out in the ocean, you need to have lifeguards.
Sure.
There's no standard of care in racing, and there should be.
Mm-hmm.
And race guards should be at every race across the country, regardless. I mean, the whole thing with race guards, as our race director partners find, is that, we are proactive. We can be reactive, but we're proactive, right? We're helping these little things to help get more people across the finish line and reach their goals and be there in case something bad happens, right? And if something that's not bad, and they're fine, that's good too, because it's comforting knowing that we're out there. And if you need something for a little thing that's going on during your race, then we're there. So we help and get more people across the finish line safely. We also help with retention race because the people had a great race experience versus the race director that put 1 cup of water every 2 miles or every 10 miles rather, and they have a problem. And the people that spent a lot of dollars on their registration are all mad because there was no support.
Right. So, I mean, how many metro markets are you in now?
Yeah, so we're in, what are we now? We're over 900 race guards across the country now.
Okay.
We've got, like I said, 50 races last year. So our main markets, and there's sub-markets of this, of course, but like Texas, up and down, all over sideways of Texas. We have a huge team in Texas, Chicago area, Midwest area, Minnesota. We've got big teams. We've got big teams in California, obviously. We have a team in Boston, and so we're growing into markets where our sponsors typically want us to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the population, of course. We get hit up for races in South Dakota, and there's just not a lot of people in South Dakota, so it's hard for us to get to those races. Sure.
Yeah. So is this a company that you eventually sell or take public, or is it more of a nonprofit, or kind of how do you think about it?
Yeah. Well, we ultimately like to sell it and grow. We really want to. We want to be involved. Our leadership team, Janice Penrose, who's the president of our company, myself, our medical director, our national team director, our marketing director, we are passionate athletes, and we're passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
So we want to always kind of remain there, but we may need some help to get us to so much bigger at 50 races. Come on, let's go to 300 races. Let's go to 3,000 races.
Yeah.
So ultimately there's an opportunity, and we may need some help along the way to get us to that growth metric. So today, we're at zero debt. We're profitable. We're not taking much dollars out for ourselves, obviously, because we can't at this point. But ultimately, I can see this thing really turning into something that has tremendous size to it, as far as an ability to generate revenue, but also help lots of people.
Okay. Is there competition for race guards, or not really?
There's not today anyway. We're the only ones that are out there doing it, and maybe the only ones that are crazy enough to do it. Because there's a lot of things to it, and there's a lot of moving parts. And fortunately, we have some great technology that we've developed, as I mentioned early on, that help us track, help the race directors see what's going on. And honestly, it's like herding cats, getting all these race guards on time, trained appropriately, the appropriate level of insurance, the things, all that stuff. Not to say that anybody, somebody can't do it, because somebody can always do whatever. But it's a lot. We are down the path, and somebody coming into it would have to figure all that out.
Right. Interesting. So, you told me a little bit about how you got into it, so had you done startups before, or this was your first startup?
Always been entrepreneurial, from the very beginning. I got into the quick story is that as a very young kid, I traded a bike for a motorcycle to get my first car.
Yeah.
When I was 12 and a half, fixed that car up because people were telling you, you're not going to do it. You're not going to fix that old car. It's a 1959 Edsel. I have an old car collection today. Yeah. And they said, you're never going to fix that. Well, by the time I was 16, I drove that Edsel from Northern California to Portland, Oregon, and won Best of Show.
That's awesome.
I still have that car today.
Oh, that's great.
So it's motivating. So I've always been kind of motivated to do
Right.
something when people tell you can't do it that way. Hey, we heard, with race cars, we heard people, you can't do that. You're not going to be able to make that work.
Yeah.
Who's going to want to do that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you just charge on. And we have our challenges. I mean, sponsors are in, sponsors are out. And,
Sure.
management changes, and you gotta just keep fighting the fight.
Yeah. So for the kind of entrepreneurial audience out there, any kind of words or wisdom or tips or anything based on your experience to this point?
Well, all I can say is, you gotta, if you're passionate about what you're doing, there's always a way. You're gonna have dark days.
Sure.
A lot of dark days.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's days even right now. I'm like going, man, what are we doing? This is crazy how hard we work for little reward.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you're passionate about it, and the idea is good. I mean, I've had plenty of ideas and tried down a path that just weren't good ideas.
Yeah.
And you got to know when to say, you know what, that's not going to work, and move on to the next one.
Right.
And learn from it, right? So that's what I would say would be, some advice from the standpoint of, if you're passionate about it, and listen to people. Listen honestly. If they say, Andy, that idea, that product, that thing sucks.
Yeah.
Listen to them.
Yeah.
And ask why.
Yeah.
And then maybe either learn from it, fix it, or whatever, and ask somebody else. And if they tell you it sucks, well, maybe it does suck.
Yeah.
And then try something else, or try a different angle on it. But if there's truly something that makes sense intuitively, that you're passionate about, just keep going, man.
Yeah.
Ultimately things will turn around.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that. You got to find that intersection of real customers, your passion, and your domain expertise, and it sounds like you found that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So if you're a potential sponsor or interested in getting involved in race cards, or how do they get a hold of you or a hold of the company, or how do they find out about that?
Easy to do is racecards.org is our website. Easy enough to do.
One word, racecards.org.
Racecards.org. Yeah,
Okay.
one word. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. And you can come in, through our website's the easiest way, because there's an application if you want to be a race card.
Yeah.
Right? And you want to get trained and certified, there's a platform that we have. And keep in mind, so here we have 900 race cards, right? So you got to keep track of them.
Right.
You got to keep track of their certifications. You got to keep track of all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when they sign up for races, you need to make sure that they're up to date on all their certs and their continuing education that we do and all that stuff. So we have a platform, we do all that, and make it easy for the race cards when they come in. If you're interested in race cards, you fill out the application, upload your certs if you already have a doctor or whatever, and you upload all that stuff, and then off you go. And for sponsors, and they can see all that stuff that's going on there. We also are just launching, and it's not really live yet, is this Race Cards Alliance website, and that is for races like here in San Diego. We have some favorite races: San Diego Half, Carlsbad, La Jolla Half, AFC. They're great people. They're great races. They're well organized, well run.
Yeah.
And they're great partners of Race Cards. And so this Alliance side is we do things for the races that are committed to really putting race cards out there, and we do special things for them and special gear and all that kind of stuff for them. So it's kind of a neat thing, and that's kind of the pay for service model.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Andy. I really appreciate you coming in today. This was great.
For
thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself and about race cards, and sounds like you're on the right track, and very cool what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
This is Patrick Henry, the CEO of Quest Fusion, with The Real Deal What Matters. Thanks for joining.